Lust is not a sin. Shame and guilt makes lust a compulsion. There is nothing wrong with sex and masturbation. I'm Sebastian, addiction recovery coach, and I have given up porn many years ago. If you want to know how I let go of lust, stay till the end of this video. As I said, I have watched porn for a decade plus, for 10 years plus, and it took me a while to go from intending to give up porn to reaching that level where I am not watching porn ever again. It took me years. It took me about 5, 6 years to completely give up porn, because when you intend to give up porn, you know that you will relapse, because sexual energy is very powerful and lust is just the shadow side, the unhealthy side of sexual energy. Is sexual energy gone wrong? You know how it feels like to watch porn and feel so overwhelmed by watching porn. You feel like you feel your body is possessed by lust. And it's interesting because, and I know a lot of you will relate to this, it feels like you are overwhelmed by lust, but it will never be enough. As Viktor Frankl said, you cannot get enough of something that is not supposed to fulfill you. So it is that sensation of being overwhelmed by lust, but it will never be enough. It's kind of contradictory, but that's how you feel. That's how your mind feels, your body feels. And it's incredibly frustrating, even while you are being possessed with lust and playing with yourself. It's like a bottomless pit, but a bottomless pit that is filled with water that keeps being poured in, like poured in over and over again, never ending. It's overwhelming and frustrating and incredibly unfulfilling all at the same time. So that is how I let my beautiful sexuality become lust through many years of watching porn, through many years of jerking off, through many years of trying to hook up with women, through many years of being addicted to my ejaculation, whether it was with porn, whether it was with women, whether it's through massage parlor or prostitute, whatever the case might be, I was possessed by lust. But I have to start by talking about porn more specifically, because the number one step, in my opinion, to desexualize your mind is giving up porn. Porn should not have a place in a man's life, because porn makes you objectify a woman, makes your mind full of lust, as I just mentioned previously. And it rewires your brain to get hooked on watching people have sex. It is an unwholesome activity because it does not bring you any benefit. It does not bring you any type of productivity when it comes to the rest of your life. And it also makes you more depressed, more anxious, and more sad. And it can lead to your own demise and even to suicide. I'm not joking. Because once you get addicted to porn, your dopamine receptors are fried. They get fewer in numbers and they are less efficient. And because your dopamine receptors are fewer in numbers and not as effective, your brain, your nervous system has to compensate by releasing stress hormone, cortisol, which means that your rest of your life will become grayer, darker, because your dopamine receptors are not working as well. You won't be able to enjoy your small day-to-day activities. So you'll feel more in pain, and the way you deal with pain, you will watch more porn. So it's a vicious cycle. You want to enter a virtuous cycle where the less you watch porn, the more you can let go, the more you can be productive, and the happier and more peaceful you can get. But we'll talk about this in a second. So porn should not have a place in a man's life. But masturbation and sex are okay in moderation, if not done through compulsion. When you were watching porn, at one point it was for pleasure, then it quickly became to deal with pain. Any type of pain will trigger you to watch pain. So any type of negative emotion, whether it's stress, whether it's anxiety, whether it's frustration, that a lot of it comes from watching a lot of porn to begin with, as I just mentioned previously, with less efficient dopamine receptor. Your way to deal with pain and negative emotions or trauma would be to watch more porn. So when you give up porn, you don't want to use sex and masturbation out of compulsion. You want to have sex and ejaculate and or masturbate every now and then in moderation when you are feeling neutral, when you are feeling good. You don't want to use sex and masturbation as you might have done previously to cope with negative emotion and pain. When you are feeling in pain, when you are feeling negative, that is the time to meditate and let go. That is not the time to masturbate and have sex. So masturbation and sex is not an unwholesome activity if done in moderation and not out of compulsion. And when it comes to sex, it is to build connection and bonding with your partner. And masturbation every now and then in moderation is, without porn obviously, is also okay. But how do you get to this point when you are not using porn, then after porn, sex and masturbation to deal, to cope with negative emotions and stress and anxiety, so on and so on? You have to know how to deal with those urges. When those urge comes up, when you are maybe feeling pain or feeling anxiety, you have that urge to watch porn. It's the same for sex and the same for masturbation. You have that urge. So instead of indulging that urge with sex, with porn, with masturbation out of compulsion, you deal with that. Urge is not the same thing as desire. Desire is another subject for another. That urge is just a body sensation. And if you see it as such, you don't label it. You forsake and let go of the thought that comes with that body sensation. You relax your body completely. You breathe in your stomach and breathe out your stomach. Your body is completely relaxed, which means that you are not resisting that body sensation. You are allowing it to be. You are accepting it. You might even be able to embrace it. If you just accept and allow it to, that body sensation will just fade of its own accord. And rather quickly, if I may say. And over time, the more you can do that, the more you can be consistent with that practice, the more you can be disciplined with that practice, the weaker those body sensation will be and the stronger your letting muscle will become. And over time, it won't trigger you anymore because your muscle, your letting more muscle will just be able to deal with that weak body sensation like a passing cloud in the sky. And that is how you get out that vicious cycle. You break out this vicious cycle to enter a virtuous cycle where you become better and better at letting go of not only those porn urges, those porn body sensation, also the negative emotion and anxiety that provoke those urges. And at one point, the more you can let go of those urge and negative emotion. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Sebastian, your addiction recovery coach, and I'm here to help those of you give up on desexualize their mind and other addictive compulsions. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you very soon. Links are in the description box below, and I'm sure